taking control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching
let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make the louder noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman, that we're the only ones who can be strong, but we break on command, 'cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you for listening in at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, and on Revolution Radio. As we welcome you into tonight's show as we broadcast out of Uncle Jimbo's cabin in the Great White North live on this Monday night, early Tuesday morning, if you're on the East Coast and still fired up from that presidential debate. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we broadcast every night of the week as we want to be your one-stop shop when it comes to the supernatural, paranormal, conspiratorial, and so much more. We want to thank our resident guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, for helping us with our theme music. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. You can also check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find us on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. This time, we say hello to everyone listening in on the Revolution Radio chat room, on the High Plains Talk Radio Network, in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker, along with our fans on Facebook at Ufology Chronicles, Chronicles of the Unknown, Forest Moon Paranormal, and our flagship chat room, the SOR Space Travelers. Have you signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club yet? It's only $5 a month, and with that, your name gets entered into monthly prize draws, access to private group interviews, access to special sections on our website for your postings, and much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. While at spacedoutradio.com, you can read our latest blogs, check out Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire for your latest and weird news, and we also have a new feature on our website. The SOR Sightlines Report is there for you. If you've had an experience and want it investigated by our researcher, Mike Schmidt, just fill out the Sightlines report and we will get back to you on it. All information is 100% confidential. Remember, if you are a listener of Revolution Radio, the Double R Machine is the largest non-profit online radio station online. Do us a favor, take the time to visit freedomslips.com and donate today. I'm battling a little bit of a cold here, so we're going to go through it. I'm blaming my children for this because, hell, we don't get it anywhere else but them. Either way, can you believe it's already the final week of September? Where did it go? Amazing how quickly time is flying by, as once again it's time to bring in one of our intrepid cryptid researchers. The final Monday of the month means it's Butch Witkowski time from UFOcop.com. Butch is an investigator of all trades, a former policeman. Butch puts his techniques to work week in and week out, looking for and searching for the answers we are all seeking when it comes to experiencing the unknown. Butch has tracked down everything from dogmen and werewolves to UFOs and alien abduction, and there are some strange days happening out there right now. Butch will get into detail tonight, but people are starting to have some reports of some real strange goings-on out there, and you have to take it at face value because they're the ones experiencing it. So let's find out what it's all about tonight. Strange Days with Butch Witkowski is underway. Butch, welcome to Space Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Did you watch those lovely presidential debates?
Yeah, I was just recuperating from a backache, and now I got a migraine.
I don't blame you.
I am not a political person. I watched out of sheer amusement, I believe, but I don't know. I don't know where that's going. I'm not a follower, so I got enough. I got enough takes with all this other stuff that's going on.
You know what? I can honestly say I didn't even watch the Canadian debates this year. I really didn't, and I know with the spectacle that is going on down south between Hillary and Donald, it's one of those things where I think it's just best if we just all turn the other way.
That's a very good idea. Well, you have a couple of the royals up there right now, don't you?
We do. William and Kate are visiting, and it's been piss-poor weather for them. Which isn't too surprising at this time of year. By the time they leave, the October warmth will start. You know what? I'm a little freaked out, though. It's
Why's
not
that?
well because next week they're already predicting snow up here.
Oh my!
I'm not ready for snow yet.
No.
That's like a November, December thing, not October.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even got everything set up yet, and. Man, you got to start early here for things.
Well, we've had a lot of warm weather, this summer, and still, as I speak, we still have warm weather, and our leaves on the trees are just now starting to get, a little color. Normally, we have them way ahead of October 1st, but just now they're starting to turn. And I was on upstate, was on the western part of the state over the weekend speaking at a conference, and I thought, well, further north I'm going and stuff, I'll see more. No, it was about the same. They just really haven't changed much. But,
well, everybody up here is saying that this is early. This is very, very early, and I'm not a fan of that. It's just not very Christian to me. You know what I'm saying? I got things I have to do. I learned last year putting up my Christmas lights at minus 26 degrees was not a good idea.
No, that's not good.
No, it wasn't. So I have to prepare my Christmas lights. I have to do my gutters. I have to, thank God I live on a street where literally we'll get maybe 4 kids entire Halloween, so I don't have to worry about Halloween stuff burdening me, but I got to get prepared. I don't even have enough wood to go through the winter. And Mrs. SOR, man, she's a burnaholic in our wood stove.
We got a heat pump, so I don't have to worry about wood.
Well, up here, everybody still enjoys a good fire. That's what I like about it. And you come into your house and it's all, smelling like nice cedar or something along those lines. As the missus has the wood stove going, heats up the house, keeps the bills down. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, we used to have a farm, and we had 2 wood burning stoves, and well, I'll tell you what, you can really crank it up.
Well, we figured by switching to a wood stove that we actually, I believe she calculated it out that it was going to save us between $30 and $40, maybe $50 a month on heating over the winter. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Mm-hmm. But cheaper than the alternative. I'd sooner go cut down some trees, and I got to get my chainsaw fixed. I'm going through a tough time right now, man. My chainsaw even broke on me yesterday.
Oh, man.
Oh, just not loving this. I got trees out there I got to cut down for wood. And,
got some kind of black cloud floating over your head?
I don't know. But the burnaholic upstairs is saying, you got to get them trees. You got to get them trees. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Anyhow, enough about my black cloud and yours. What's going on in the cryptid world these days, my friend?
I don't even know where to start anymore. It's and I was discussing that with 3 researchers across the country today, and they don't have any answers either. It just seemed like, last year, or maybe the year before last, Bigfoot reports were very sparse. UFO reports were very sparse. Some crypto reports were full going. Ours was one of them, and or is one of them. But now, just in the last, not even a year, we're getting reports. We just got 2. We're getting strange creature reports on. These 2 really make me a little crazy because they're in North Carolina. They come out of North Carolina, and a gentleman is out chopping wood in his backyard, as a matter of fact, and son's with him, older boy, about 14. And he hears this rumbling and carrying on in the woods behind the house. It's not a big wooded area. It's really just kind of separates one property from another. So he looks up and he doesn't see anything, and then the boy turns around and he says, "Dad, look," and behind the wood pile, which is at the very end of the yard, he sees this, and I'm going to describe it the way he described it because I have no idea what it is. I don't really have a clue. But it was standing there on 4 hocked legs, and he was positive of that. And it was, had some human-like features in the face, basically the eye area, short fur, and it was just staring at him. And, he picked up a chunk of wood and started walking toward it. It was only about 3.5, 4 foot off the ground in height, but the head hung much lower than the body. And he didn't notice a tail or anything like that, but as he proceeded toward it to scare it off, I guess, this thing took off through the woods. He said, Ken Bear going through the woods wouldn't have made that kind of noise, and screaming like a woman would scream. That was the best he could get about it. Now, I talked about the human features in the face, and he said, well, I got a better look a couple days later. I said, it came back? He said, yes. I said, and how did that happen? He said, well, he was sitting out on the back porch, enjoying a coffee and after supper, and he looked over, and there it was again. Now, he never heard it arrive, but there it was behind the wood pile, just staring at him. So he really took a good look. He said, so my eyes, made sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. He said, again, he could see the 4 hocked legs, the way it was standing next to the wood pile. He said it definitely has human-like eyes. And I said, well, do you think maybe you're looking at a feral hog? And he said, no feral hog. He said, I know what they look like. He said, and I said, it had 4 hocked legs. He said, yep. And he said, it just walked off into the woods. And then he said, I never made a move toward it. And then all of a sudden, all the noise started again, the rumbling, the carrying on, and the screams as it went out of sight. So he said, although I have a very good camera in the house, he said, I've decided that I'm going to put up game cams. Now, he put 2 game cams up. The last one he just put up this past Saturday. And he got them set to run 24 hours. But I've never heard of anything like that, running on 4 hocked legs, and I'm trying to figure out how anything would run or even walk on 4 hocked legs. And, that was his description, and, we're going to go down because we'll be going down to Brown Mountain to check out the lights again, but we're going to wait a little bit to see if he can capture anything on the cameras. And then down near York, Pennsylvania, we get a report of described as a shadow creature. And this is in a big apartment complex. I mean, there are a lot of apartments there, a couple hundred. And a lady and her son, I guess she was bringing him home from school, and it was still daylight. And she just, looked up, and this, again, shadow creature showed no distinct features other than it looked like a human, a man, in shape. No features whatsoever to even look at. It was just like a shadow, and it like crawled up to the edge of the roof and was watching them, and then crawled back down, and then crawled back up again. Well, they got scared and went in the house. Now, she's seen it 3 times now in the same area. The first time was on the roof. The second time was in a communal yard area behind these apartments. And the third time was getting out of her car with some groceries going into the house. Again, I have no idea what that is. We've had UFO reports up in Dauphin County of a rather large, low UFO glowing with a ring around it. And the 2 gentlemen that saw it said that, the ring flashed and the UFO disappeared, but it was flashed bright enough that it hurt their eyes. And then there was a rectangle UFO seen in almost the same area. And eastern and central Pennsylvania are still getting reports from mysterious booms and whistles that are being heard in the night. Got coy wolf like packs running around in urban areas in eastern Pennsylvania, and they were never seen before in that area. Multicolored swirls and rectangles in the sky that are strange colored in lights, like not the normal colors of red and white, but greens and blues and purple shades. And then we got 3 reports of people that claim they're being stalked while they're in the woods. They don't know by what. They haven't really gotten any visual, but they're walking, it's walking, they stop, it stops. And so we gave them some things to try with that, but I don't want anybody out there looking for something that, something they wouldn't want to be coping with. And these cases are like I said, a little while back, we had hardly anything except a few really good long investigated cases. And now these things are coming in on a daily basis. And they're just weird cases. They're not normal. I mean, first of all, rectangles in UFOs are very rarely seen. Very rarely seen. And this creature, I don't even know of any that's ever been reported that had 4 hocked legs. I mean, I was looking at my dachshunds tonight and, trying to figure it out how they'd walk if all their legs were hocked instead of just the back. I think that'd be very difficult. Abductions, again, are up. Again, they're up. When I spoke at this conference on the weekend, I had an abduction report given to me with a young lady. Her mother and aunt brought her over, and she has some marks on her leg that were not there when she went swimming for about half an hour, but were there when she came back, and she's talking about missing time. So we're looking into that one. But there's just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. And it's crazy. I mean, this stuff is coming out of nowhere.
What do you think causes all these sightings? Is it a shift into the harvest moon? Is it that we're getting closer to Halloween and the veils start to open? What's your best surmising on this?
I tried to figure that out a couple times by comparing when we got cases, when there were busy times, when there were slow times. It doesn't seem to work out that there's any particular time other than, we're looking at the abduction cases seem to be more in the spring and summer. And somebody mentioned when we were discussing it that, well, maybe because people are outside more, windows are left open more, passing cars could be misconstrued for lighting from a UFO. So, yeah, kind of buy a little bit of that, but not all of it. The creature reports are mostly in this time of year. August, September, October, November. Then they'll die down maybe in December, January, February, and they'll pick up again in March. So, trying to figure out a timetable on these things is just crazy. And there's just so many of them right now. It's just, like I said, I'm talking to these guys today and ladies today, and they're all unbelievable. I mean, they're just so weird, like shadow people. Well, shadow people are mostly in the realm of the paranormal, and, a lot of those are photographed in old buildings, and you have these strange creatures, and there are these glowing orbs now that have lights around them, and the lights are causing, physical harm. I really don't know, Dave. I'm kind of at a loss. But abduction, yeah, I'm pretty sold on that because they've been going up 5% every year, and just in the last 3 years they've been up 10%. But the strange multicolored lights and the rectangles in the sky. I found a couple cases of the rectangles. One was by a pilot. They're paper thin. They're not thick at all. They're not, they're very large. This one happened to be red in color. The other one that I found, the other was a black, all black, the one that was seen by the pilots. And, the pilot said, there were no wings, no empennage, no trailing edge, no leading edge. There was nothing. It was just a flat triangle, looked like a black piece of paper flying through the sky at a high rate of speed, where the other one that was seen by these gentlemen, it was very slow moving. So I'm just, some of this stuff just puts you at a loss because you've either never heard of anything like it or find anything like it when you research it, or there's just a whole lot of freaky stuff going on right now. And all of a sudden, a lot of people, and I heard that up at the conference this past weekend, where a lot of people were talking about oh my God, a group of creatures, I guess, for lack of a better word, that they swear is, more attuned to devil worshipping and that kind of voodoo and that kind of stuff, because the way they dress and the way they act, and they like set up these little camps, like like a small coven or something would be, and then when they go to find them, there's the only thing left is maybe a small bonfire or maybe some bones of something or other. So I want to get more information on that, because if there's bones there, we can check the bones out and see what they are. And it's just a weird time right now, and I have no explanation for it. Just these weird cases coming out of nowhere, and these mysterious booms and these whistles. The booms are like a sonic boom, but they're constant. And then the other thing is these whistles. And one guy says it's like a high-pitched key of an organ that just goes on and on and on and on and on. There's no wind blowing. And then it just stops. And they won't hear it for days, weeks, sometimes a month or two. And then they'll start up again. And the police have looked into it, and they can't come up with anything, and we can't find anything on it. The state would be working on anything like that, or there's no airports near where this happens, so it's definitely not a plane. So
we were getting that actually just north of me a few hours in a town called Vanderhoof, where they were actually, you could hear it, and it almost sounded like continual train brakes squealing, when the train hits their brakes and it takes forever to stop that train, and the scratching and the squealing from metal to metal. And the recordings on that were incredible, and there's the same thing. Nobody seems to know what's causing it.
Yeah, they tried everything. Well, the first thing we heard was they were trying to say that, with the onset of all these cell towers that they're putting up now, they're so much bigger and taller than when they were very first put up. They're saying that there are so many of these panels up there that have holes in them that they could be causing the whistle. But I don't quite buy that. You'd have to have, it's possible. I just don't buy it because those panels are all pretty much up and down straight. They're not angled like, you know, you would need like a reed for a horn. And it's we're getting them all over Pennsylvania. They're getting them out in the West Coast. They're getting them in the Southwest. I mean, they're getting them everywhere. And they're either hum, like the Taos hum in New Mexico, which has been constant for a number of years now, or they are just a freak of nature, maybe. I don't know. You know, this stuff is getting so technical, and there's really no place to do research on it. Where, you know, I tried researching the four hawk legs. Well, I came up with a 0. Or creatures with a human-like face. Well, the only thing I came up with there was 2 Bigfoot reports from back in the 80s that said it was more human-looking. And the shadow creatures, I've never even heard of one that was seen outside, especially in the daylight. I mean, like I said, it's mostly a paranormal thing that's seen inside of haunted houses or homes that are, and these institutions that are claimed to be haunted. The coy wolf running in packs in urban areas, that's just, look, they run in packs all over our northern areas and our heavily wooded areas. And I think when I talked to the game ranger, they were telling me it was like they figure about 200,000 maybe in the state, in Pennsylvania. And they're just a mix from gray wolves that came down with, from Canada and, made it here.
Oh, sure. Blame our wolves. Blame them.
I was waiting for that. But, and they pretty much stayed in that area, up along the northern border and with New York and Canada. And it just in the last, I believe he said in the last 5 years, they've been watching the packs. And they run in packs 8 or 10. And that's weird. I mean, I've never even heard of them. There was a young wolf that was running through one of the local cities here, and it was captured pretty quick. But he was near state game land, so it's fairly obvious that he got out of the game land and just found himself on the street and decided he was going to walk around and see what was happening. And but packs of them, no. And police put out warnings already about it. Like you see these things, you got young children or animals, like your dogs and stuff, or cats. So you need to get them out of there and get them in the house, and don't approach them, because they do have that wolf mentality. One will be in front of you making a fuss, and the other ones will be right behind you. So we got all these strange reports going on, and it's crazy. It's just, you get one strange report or two in a month or two time period. It's not too odd. But when you get these on almost a daily basis, and these people are seeing something, and it's up to us to try to find out what they're seeing. Just some of them are a little weird, don't kind of know where to place it. Is this a crypto thing, or is this not a crypto thing, or is this is there UFO involvement here? And the people that we're getting reports from, I mean, they're doing everything. They're giving us GPS coordinates and sending us photographs of the area and stuff like that. So, I mean, if people are willing to go to that length, I'm assuming, if it would be a hoax, they just tell a story and you never get a hold of them again. But these people, they want an answer. And unfortunately, I don't have one at the moment, especially for that thing that looks like with the 4 hawk legs and only 3 or 4 foot off the ground, and the head hangs much lower than the body, than the chest, and the screaming and noise it makes. I've never heard anything like that. I know what a pig sounds like when it squeals, and I said that to him. He said, no, we're not talking about a screaming pig here. He said, this is a scream like like a woman, like a woman in distress would scream. And I'm going like, that's weird. Then I'll bring up this next one, which will really floor you. These people that are being stalked in the woods come on the end of a report that I just got the other day, and I really didn't go over it a whole lot yet because I had to leave for that conference. They're finding bodies in the woods in the eastern part of the United States, and they gave me a list to check out. and they're not murders. They're just finding bodies in the woods, almost like they're finding these body parts washing up on on the shores over in Washington and Oregon. And I never heard anything like that. I didn't hear anything about it. Like I said, I just got it, so I got to do a little bit more work on that and see what's going on there, and just check police files and stuff. But it's just weird. That is just weird. And they're talking about maybe 10 or 12 people so far have been found. That's mass murderer territory, you know what I mean?
Eric wants to know in the Space Out Radio chat room, where was this seen, Butch? It went under the radar here in the Piedmont.
Which one? What are you talking about?
I guess in regards to the sightings that were being seen of these creatures. I got to wait for him to update here.
Okay.
Because there's about a 30-second delay here.
Okay, well, the creatures with the hawk legs are in North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, that's where he is. Okay.
He's talking about the Piedmont. Okay, now I know what he's talking about. Not very far. Maybe 20, 30 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's familiar with that information, I'll take any information he has out there in that area.
Well, I can send him on the loose, that's for sure.
Okay.
Because I know that's right up his alley, so I'm close by.
And who was it?
That's my news director of the SLR Space Wire, Eric. Yeah.
Yeah. I sent to him. I just told him. He asked when we were going to be down at the Brown Mountain Lights, and I told him in November. And I will give him a date. Matter of fact, I'll get a hold of him and let him know exactly when we're going to be there. Because what we were going to do is we were going to go to this guy's location first to see about this hawk leg thing, and then we were going to go over the Brown Mountain Lights. Now, he says he's not that far, but when you talk to people down south and they say they're not that far, they could be talking about another state, like they're talking about it's around the corner. I was in South Carolina one time. The guy said, how far to Florida? Oh, just down the road a piece. Yeah, almost a day's ride. But, so that's where we're at with these. I mean, it's just a whole lot of strange stuff that's going on, and nobody knows what's going on. One of my investigators that I know from another group, good friend, he's got reptilian reports up in the coal regions of Pennsylvania. Now, I haven't talked a lot about it to him, but that's not new. With all the closed mines and caves up in that area, we're talking about hundreds of them. And some are closed off, you can't ever get them because they blow them shut. But there's a lot of them that are wide open. And he's got a couple folks that evidently witnessed one of these things walking out of the cave, kind of staring around, looking around, and walking right back in. And it was crazy. The reptilian thing, there's so many stories about them that go way back, where miners that were trapped were rescued by reptilian beings. And, it's just, you don't know until you go. Until you stick your nose in there and look around and see what's going on, you just don't know. So you got the report, you got the information, you got the location, you got the people to talk to, and you just pack up and go and see what you can find. But some of these are bizarre. Like the flat, there are only 3 reports that I can find of the flat rectangular UFOs. And there's thousands and thousands of reports out there, and when I checked databases for rectangular UFOs, I came up with 2 plus the one I have. And they're huge. They're not little. So, people thought, well, maybe it's the a government-sponsored type thing. And, well, I guess anything could be, but this just doesn't make it that way. It doesn't sound that way because all these years you've only had 2 reports of a rectangular UFO, and they're paper thin. It's not like it's a ship, like a craft, where it's got some height to it and heft and weight and all that stuff. It's like a thin piece of paper. So, again, what are we dealing with there? What's that supposed to be? And all the other stuff is picking up. Bigfoot cases are picking up out in the Northwest, in the Southwest. Chupacabra reports are picking up in the Texas areas again. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And, I don't know what it's like up in your area, but down here, it's getting crazy.
I was talking with a First Nations woman today, and I was asking her about, because word is starting to travel around my town that there's this weird guy doing this weird radio show at night, and yeah, that's me. I put my hand up sheepishly. Anyways, her and I were talking about it, and apparently, because I was asking if there was any other bipedal cryptids seen in this area besides Bigfoot, which she said no. And she goes, so we started talking about Sasquatch quite a bit. And she actually told me a couple of areas today to go have a look. The only problem is the one area you're either going to run into Sasquatch or grizzly bears. And me not being a hunter, I don't know if I really want to take that road. But that's just me. So, but the Bigfoot, she goes, you go up there, you will see them. If you give them an opportunity, they will show themselves to you. And, when you hear a First Nations person say that, you always give that a little bit, in my opinion, you give that a little bit more belief and credibility than, say, if I was talking to, John Smith, who, goes hunting every now and again. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I want to get to a couple questions here before you answer that, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Let's get to Galen's question in the SOR Space Travelers. She is asking, Butch, have you ever heard of the Devil's Tramping Grounds, an area with unusual lights at night? And if so, what could you tell us about it?
I've heard of several. The newest one I ever heard was just a few years ago, and it was in Colorado. Colorado put up this beautiful state park. And all of a sudden it was inhabited by strange lights, all kind of really weird people hanging around. And it got to the point where the governor actually closed it down. They knocked everything apart, put it back, turned it back into forest. But the other one is that I heard of was down in Virginia. And maybe Eric can help me out with this one, but I think they called it the Piedmont Triad area. And I'm not familiar with that term or exactly where that's at, but they called it the Piedmont Triad area. And they were getting a lot of weird lights at all times of the year, day and night. They could see them. And I don't know what that's all about either. But there are many places in this country, Australia, New Zealand, Texas, Missouri, that have either strange lights or, just a whole lot of weird going on. But I really don't know, what causes these lights. Now, the Brown Mountain lights, one group went down there and came up with plasma, and the guy said he could create those same lights in his microwave. Well, I don't want to be around when he does that because he's probably going to lose the house. But they're just something to see. They're there all the time. Like, we don't have to pick a date to go down to North Carolina. We can go down any night of the week and weekend and see them 24/7. But North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, just seems like right now they are just weird places to be because that's where a lot of this stuff's coming out of.
Next question comes from Mario. You mentioned about the bodies that have been found. Have they been mutilated or found mutilated? And if so, how do you know it's not murder?
Well, that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking, this may be because I see no mention of mutilation. I don't see any like this was some missing person that disappeared 6 or 8 months ago, and they just found them. These are people that are just turning up. Like somebody's walking down a path one weekend, they go the next weekend, and they find a body. And they're not saying right now how they died. I doubt very much this time of year people are falling over with, heart attacks or being frozen in the cold. So, like I said, we got to get into the police reports and see what they say or see what they're saying, and then try to contact these people that are putting these stories forward because there's like 3 of them. and it's really deep forest too. It's not like off the edge of a highway. And from the one report, it just seemed to me like it would have been a long way to carry a body. It was like 3 miles in, and I just don't see anybody dragging a body for 3 miles. Not if they just want to dump it.
Very understandable indeed. What do you think, Butch, is causing this whole realm of sightings? I realize I asked you something similar earlier, but do you believe that maybe people are just starting to open up their eyes a little bit more when they're in the wilderness as they take the time to investigate those strange sounds or something? I mean, because maybe the curiosity is building in people? Could we say that?
Yeah, you could say that. I think people are more aware, or becoming more aware of their surroundings. I mentioned something like that to a researcher I talked to the other day at the conference, and he said, well, people right now are on the lookout for anything weird because of the terrorist threats and all these weird things that are happening with that. And he kind of thought that could be one of the reasons why people are seeing more, because they're looking more. They're more aware of their surroundings, and that's I can buy that. I mean, that's possible. But the cases, if 5 out of 10 cases were Bigfoot cases, okay, you can understand that. If 4 or 5 of them were UFO cases, their standard UFO or orb or whatever triangle, you can understand that. But when you get these cases that are just so weird, like the coy wolf deal in urban areas, I mean, these things are seen walking around in parks, parking lots. And I mean, that's very strange. When we went up into Clearfield County and spent some days up there looking for our bipedal canine, talking to the rangers up there, they see those packs all the time. And he said they just really showed up a year or so ago. They were never there before. There were coyotes here and a coyote there. He said, but never packs. And he said all of a sudden these coy wolf packs started showing up. And he said they're all over the place now. He said they never carried their guns all the time. He said, now we carry our guns all the time.
Eric Markham is saying, Butch, we get lots of suicides in the woods and mountains this time of year, especially in the mountains west of here where he is in North Carolina. Seems to be a seasonal phenomena. He says he used to work in Spruce Pine and had to draw a lot of heart bloods out of the bodies for toxicology reports.
Uh-huh. Well, and that could be too. It just seems like a lot, 1 or 2 maybe, but 10 or 12, there's got to be something more to it than that. Because the area I'm talking about is probably maybe 100 square mile area. There's nothing outside that area that are being found, and there's other wooded areas around that area. It just seems to be in this one particular area that they're finding these bodies. And the only reason I think they're finding them is because there's 2 bike paths that go up through there, and there's 2 walking or hiking, not walking, but hiking paths that go up through there. And they're finding these things, right along the path. And they're not hikers. I mean, they're not dressed as hikers. They don't have the gear, the equipment. They're just bodies. And they're not been there a long time either. So it was somebody that was lost and, for some reason or another died on the trail. And they weren't found for a long time. And another thing, none of these people were listed as missing persons. Now that's just flat out weird.
Now you have investigated alien mutilations. Do you think there is anything similar to what you've investigated in the past compared to what these are?
There could be, but until I get see the police report. And, they'll put down possible cause of death, and they'll either say fell and hit a rock or got crushed by a tree, or unknown wounds would be the thing I'd be looking for. So unknown wounds. So could it be animal-type wounds? I'm sure they would know what that looks like. Or could it be, gunshot wounds, knife wounds? But the one that would stand out would be unknown wounds. That would be the one to really zero in on, because the people that have been mutilated all have unknown type of wounds. I mean, wounds that we don't have any way of causing those type of wounds. One doctor told us, pathologist said, to do that type of to exercise that type of organ from the body without touching anything else, doing any damage. He said it could be done with a laser. The only problem with that is, he said, the laser would have to be on the back of a tractor trailer. That's how big it would have to be that precision. Not like a small laser scalpel they use in an operating room, which is, cutting very little, but to do an excise of an anal area, or the udders of a cow, or the lower intestinal tract of a human being, without doing any other damage to the inside. He said, we don't have anything like that.
Are you getting any reports on other dimensional large beings lately?
Not lately. They're pretty much ongoing. They're described as human-like, some with hair over the body, some not. Very tall, very muscular, almost Neanderthal-looking. I think Virginia, there was one out of Virginia, and there was another out of upstate New York. Those are the only two I can remember. And the reason they were called other dimensional is because in both cases, and the cases aren't related, not the same people, anything like that, and they were almost a year apart, the one guy was just setting up his camp. He, just camping weekend by himself and along with his brother. And he grabbed his tent poles and was going over to put his tent up, and he turned around, and there this thing was standing. He turned around, dropped the poles, yelled to his brother, turned around, it was gone. He said, there's no way it could have went by me. He said, and to get into the woods where it would have possibly disappeared was a good 100 yards away. And he said he never heard any movement. And he said, I only turned my back for a couple seconds. So that's the interdimensional thing is just, I try to keep an open mind with that because, when you look up the word interdimensional, and I don't care what dictionary it is, and you look it up, the only thing it says about interdimensional is that it is a term that was developed through sci-fi movies in the early and late 50s and carried on and was most prominently used in Star Trek. Other than that word, it's not even a pseudoscience. I mean, nobody studies it. It's just one of those things where, it fit the genre of the movie they were making or whatever, and something had to appear and disappear. So of course, interdimensional popped up, but there have been a lot of sightings, Bigfoot in particular, where people say, we're following tracks, and left, right, left, right, left, right, and then they disappear in the middle of an open field. So, it's not quite wrapped around my head yet, but is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. I've said that 100 times. But it's just, it's weird. It's just weird.
Get to a few more questions. Daryl is asking, any of these giants that you're seeing, anything over 20 feet or more tall?
No, these were in the range of about 8 foot, maybe a little taller, both of them.
The bodies that are being found, Galen would like to know, have you heard, Butch, of any of them from missing people that have been missing for a long time but did not look like they were in the woods for that long?
Well, we found none of them, according to the report that I got, that kind of summed up all of them. None of those people were listed as missing. And all of them didn't look like they were in the woods very long at all. They didn't have, they weren't, somebody dies in the woods, first thing is free lunch for everything that crawls or walks or skulls its way through the woods. It's a free lunch. But no animal damage, no animal markings that were ever brought forth in the initial investigation. So could it be a serial killer? Oh, yeah, absolutely. But until we find out what kind of wounds or how they died, it just kind of makes the investigation a standstill with moot points.
Okay, let's move on here.
Sure.
Have any of the bodies ever been identified?
Nope, not to this date, not one of them. Not local people. Nobody came forward to claim the bodies. There, matter of fact, according to the report, which I'm reading right now, the bodies are still in the custody of the coroner.
That seems really weird considering with all the DNA evidence that people have, and if somebody goes missing, obviously someone is going to make a call on that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you look at NCIC, which is our database from the FBI on missing persons, you know, they average out, you know, a couple thousand missing persons a week. But nothing on these guys are folks. I don't know if they're all male and female, but nobody young. I mean, they're all adults. There's no children found.
Claudia has a question for you. She's asking, Butch, do you think UFOs and ETs are both interdimensional?
They could be. They could be because, you know, we've tracked them with cameras. And we've watched them. And they'll just be doing their little zigzag thing across the sky, and there'll be a flash of light or a dull light, and looks like something opening, and they go into that light, and that's the last we see of them. And we have that on video. We've seen a number of them like that. So could they be interdimensional? Yeah. I'm not kind of sold yet on this is an interdimensional world, you know, that there's an alternative world to us. I haven't quite got that through my head yet, but interdimensional thing is a hard thing to wrap your head around because you would have to believe that there is a in and out of the dimension and that there's some type of a free passage through that doorway. And do we know about it? Well, no, you know, I'm sure the public doesn't. Maybe somebody else does, but or is it just something random? Like they can pop it up wherever they want it to pop up. You know, it could they want it to pop open above the ocean, or which could account for missing boats and planes and all that other stuff. You know, it's a weird thing to study, and there's not a whole lot of information even out there on it. I mean, a lot of people use the term, but when you try to research the term and people that are actually studying it, there aren't any. I mean, it's even mentioned, you know, Charles Fort, even in his 1919 book that he wrote out, the Book of Death, there is, and there's 14 chapters it's a pretty sizable book, but even in there he mentions dimensions that open and close, you know, holes that open up in the space-time continuum and then they close. And, you know, even NASA said that these black holes could be, you know, a space-time continuum. But, again, nobody's proved it yet.
Follow-up question from Claudia. Where do you think they're from, then?
They could be from anywhere. When you look at a star map, and you can do that on your computer, and you see where you are in the universe, and then you see that there's gazillions of stars and planets around. They could be from anywhere, or they could be from planets as close as the moon or Mars or anything like that. But, you know, anything that could construct a spacecraft to go that far. I mean, even if they came from wherever people want to say, Zeta Reticuli or whatever, you're talking about in our time, they would be traveling for hundreds of thousands of years. And who's to say they weren't already here and just moved on? And all we're getting is remnants. You know, none of it's been proven. You know, to be honest, when you sit down and study this stuff, your chances of coming up with an answer are pretty much slim to none. I have people ask me all the time, what do they look like? Well, I don't know. Well, who's flying those things? I don't know. Where do they come from? I don't know. I mean, and I've been at this 27 years now, and I still don't have an answer. I got evidence. There's something up there that we don't have that there's no way we're going to ever have, as far as I'm concerned. Because when you see something go horizon to horizon in less than a second, we ain't got nothing that fast. Or if it's doing that and then it stops, and goes vertical, turns a different color, and shoots straight up into the stars till it disappears. We ain't got anything like that. So there's something up there, there's somebody up there, or there's more than one. I think the last count was there's now 57 varieties of aliens. I don't know how they got that number. I don't know if they met all 57 varieties or they just made them up as they went along. But, that information is all gleaned from abductees. That's where the information came from. The first use of little grays, was Betty and Barney Hill. Barney Hill said it. He said they look like a little gray being. And that's where you got little grays from. And then as time went on, then, people said, well, there were larger grays, and there were reptilians, and there were this type of being and that type of being. So over a short period of time, in a few years, a whole realm of races has grown up, Nordics and name it. I mean, so now there's like 57 of them, 57 different varieties of them.
It's like a good Heinz sauce.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
we only got about 30 seconds left, Butch.
Sure. It's a stumping question that doesn't go away, and when you find a little part of an answer, it just takes you to more questions. So I doubt if I'll figure it out in my lifetime, but hopefully somebody will eventually.
Well, and on that note, we're going to hop out for our first break of the night. Butch Witkowski, Strange Days here on Spaced Out Radio, the first Monday of every month. We'll be right back.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, News Director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with UFO. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Reveal Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness. You can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back for the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. The password for the SOR Space Travelers tonight is perplexing. Yes, Bill Cardwell has actually put a password on there I can pronounce. Perplexing is your password for tonight. Use it wisely if you are a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tomorrow night on the show, Lorian Fenton will join us. We're going to talk about the death of Max Spears as well as super soldiers tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. It should be a good one. Lorian is just a tremendous piece of knowledge when it comes to super soldiers, Max Spears, and what they are doing with people out there in the wilderness, they being the government. That's tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com. Remember, if you're a listener of Revolution Radio, it is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor and donate today. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, for $5 a month, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club. With that, you get a private section for posting on our website, monthly newsletters. You get your name put into monthly prize draws. You better hurry up. The next prize draw is this Friday on the SOR Roundtable, and so much more. Hey, we're going to give you a heck of a lot more than just access to our archives. We bring in Butch Witkowski now from UFO Cop. We're talking all the weird and strange things that are happening around. You mentioned during the break you haven't been this busy in 27 years of research.
That's true, yes. Like I said, one or two, 3 reports a week was okay, and then there'd be some dry times. But this is over the last quite a few months now. It's been almost a daily basis. Now, some of them are absolute hoaxes. I mean, people playing with you, but there's some that are just strange, and there's other researchers looking into it, and they're sending reports in to me to take a look at, and I'm sending stuff to them to take a look at, and we're all coming to the same conclusion, like, what the hell's going on? What's this all about? Why now? Why all this stuff coming out? And like I said, it could just be people are more aware, which could be. But I don't have an answer for it. I just don't. It's just strange, very strange.
Can we talk about eyewitness accounts for a few minutes, if you don't mind?
Sure.
There's a lot of researchers out there, Butch, right now, and I'm not going to mention any names, who say, yes, the eyewitness account is still important, but it's no longer a focal point of research because we have too many of them. And once you go through the people who want their 15 minutes of fame, or they're maybe having some sort of mental problems, because there are those people who have that, let's be realistic about this. They're saying that the real research now, whether if we're looking at cryptids, it's about a body now. If we're looking at UFOs and ETs, it's about disclosure now. And they're really kind of pushing the personal experience to the wayside. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't push aside reports from eyewitnesses because, look, they haven't found a Bigfoot body in 50 years. But there have been many reports, and you can't say that all these people that made these reports are liars. Misinformation, disinformation, misidentification, yeah, they all play a part in it. But, how do you say to a group of people, like, say, 6 or 8 people that are on a Star Watch, and they've got photographs and, they got eyewitness testimony, you're talking to every one of them separate, you're not talking to them as a group, and all describing the same exact thing. So disclosure is never going to happen. I've said that from day one. It's just not going to happen. The ramifications of bringing disclosure now would it would affect everything. I mean, it would affect governments, it would affect learning institutions, it would affect religions, just everything. So it's not going to happen, and really most of the people in the government said, well, we already told you that there are things that we can't explain in Project Blue Book. And in Project Blue Book, there are 1,399 reports that they don't dismiss, they don't blow them off, they just say, like, we don't know what the hell it was. But eyewitness reports, I mean, they mean a lot because whether it's a hoax or not, I mean, you can pretty much pick out a hoax just through the story, or if you go visit the site, or you check the weather, or there's a variety of ways to pull a hoaxer out. But you'd have to come up with that they need this and they need that to prove anything is kind of silly, because some of the stuff that's seen in the sky, and I'll use that as an example, we don't have anything like that. It's just, I don't know how they could say that. Now, yeah, they can question Roswell, they can question the Aztec crash, they can question any crash site that they want to, but there are still things out there that they can't explain, and when they do present their argument, it's always a very weak argument. Like, it was easy to say the Dyatlov case where all those folks were killed was done by a Yeti. Well, okay. If that's your answer, that's your answer. But these people were not ripped apart, and it was funny that a lot of that Yeti talk came out right after the Star Wars movie where Luke is captured by this creature in the cave, and he winds up cutting his arm off. And that was the description they were given. So it just seems like some of these folks out there, and I'm not going to mention any names either, but if they can't find anything or their research isn't pulling up what they want it to, or their theory turns out to be sour, doesn't work, then it's they get to that point where, well, I need proof. I want a Bigfoot on my kitchen table. I want a flying saucer in my backyard. I want a reptile in my fish tank. You know, they come up with all kind of stuff. And the only thing that's going to actually do it is the folks that are out in the field. And when you look at some of the people who make these requests of the Bigfoot on the kitchen table and et cetera, they don't go anywhere. They don't leave their house. You know, they don't do it. They're armchair investigators that everything that's on the internet, every YouTube they can visit or every blog they can get on, or, you know, and they just, there is no research. I mean, it's just, instead of going to databases and going to the site or questioning people or looking for old cases or going back in time or going to the newspaper archives or all that stuff, they don't do it. So it's very easy for them to say, okay, now we want proof. Well, you want proof, get out and look for it.
I'm going to ask, I want to ask you this because I am actually up here in BC, going to be starting a Bigfoot group. I'm not a wilderness guy. Okay, a couple people who I will be working with are. And my question is, considering we're a bunch of newbies, what should we do, and what are the do's and don'ts, is I guess what I'm trying to ask.
Well, the first thing is everybody should know what they are looking for. If you just say, we're going to go out and if you see anything big and brown, well, that could be anything. That could be a bear, that could be a deer, that could be a moose, that could be anything you want. So the identification part of it's very important. This is what we're looking for. It's going to be approximately this tall. Footprints are going to be approximately this long, this wide. Knowing how to make a cast. Even in the snow, you can make a cast. People say you can't do that. That's baloney. In the police, we were doing that back in the 70s. They make a wax spray that you spray onto the. You let the can sit in the cold for a little bit, and then you spray it onto the print, and then you make your cast. And when you're done, it's dry, which takes a while because it's wet and it's cold. You pull it up there and just peel it, wax off, and you've got your print. And then equipment-wise, you know, they should be prepared. They're out in the woods, so they need, you know, the basic things: camera, binoculars, a single tripod, you know, one stick tripod, video cam if they want to take video cam, night vision if they want to take night vision. Depends if they're going to go day or night. Some groups hunt only daytime. Some groups hunt only nighttime. That's totally up to the group. Being familiar with the area, topo maps, knowing trails, looking up old cases. So if somebody says that at such and such a place in British Columbia, I have a sighting. Okay, so as a researcher, the first thing you do is go back into the archives, and there's many of them for Bigfoot, and were there any other sightings in that area in British Columbia? And that's a good start right there. So if it says there are none, well, then, you know, it's just take a walk and see what you can find. Looking for evidence is another thing, which could be anything from a clump of hair or scat or blood, a deer that maybe has the hind quarter taken off or just the liver's missing would be good. I find that the folks that put food out don't really have a very good payback, you know, for their investment of food. Strange things have happened. Maybe rocks are thrown at them or something like that. A weapon of some sort to protect yourself, of course, first aid. Cell phones are good, are absolutely a must nowadays. Telling people where you're going to go, and you'll be home at such and such a time. That if you're not home at such and such a time, that they can get somebody out there looking for you. It's basically just like any other investigation. The only thing is, you're not looking for a missing person or a missing dog. You're looking for a missing link.
Good way to put it. Good way to put it.
It's basically the same thing, and the only other add-ons is the research beforehand, before you go, to see if there are any reports in that area. So let's say you get a report and you pull it up on database and it says, well, in that particular area there were 9 sightings in the last 6 months. That would be an excellent place to go. And walking through the woods, howling and screaming, hooping and hollering, knocking on trees with wood sticks does not mean anything. Wood stacking is another one that's kind of weird. If they see one tree laying against the other in a wooded area, well, Bigfoot did that. Well, trees have been falling over in forest for probably millions of years, so that's really not an indication. Now, if you find a fresh broken tree and there's no reason for it to be broken, and then you should be looking on the ground or not getting close to it till you do look on the ground to see if there are any footprints. Now, if you have footprints in a broken tree that's a fresh break, then you're onto something. Then you want to take your cast, you want to look for hair, you want to kind of scour the area really gently and watch where you're walking, and a ruler to take measurements of the foot. Somebody should be taking notes. And it's really common. It's really something common. I mean, it's not like me looking for my keys for 2 days and then finding them in the pocket of the pants I'm wearing. It's pretty simple. It's common sense. And I always said that, and with anybody I've ever dealt with, you know, if they get stumped, they can get a hold of me on the website. My email's on there. It comes direct to me. I check it all the time, and I'll be glad to help anybody out. It's not as hard as people think it is. I mean, if you're kind of an outdoorsy person, you like walking in the woods, it's pretty nice to get out and walk around, because you're not just walking around for a walk. Now you're walking around with a purpose. You're walking around to find something or to investigate something, and that adds a little excitement to it, and it makes it a real fun time. And then if you do find something, then you out of your mind, you're ecstatic. But hair samples, I mean, if anybody would get one of them, and they don't, I don't care where they're at. I don't care if they're in British Columbia or Pittsburgh. If they get a hair sample or something like that, just take a few strands off, put it into a baggie or these little cellophane envelopes that you put stamps in or something like that, and just send it off to me, and I'll get it to a lab for you. No charge. And they don't charge me, so I don't charge anybody. And one of the things that's very important, very, very important, have nitrate rubber gloves in your pack. You don't touch any evidence barehanded or with a glove. I had one guy turn over some hair to us 3 years ago, I guess it was. And we took it to the lab, and I went to pick up the report and pick up the hair, and the guy looked at me and says, like, he said, I'm pretty sure it's skunk hair with ham and cheese. And I went, what? He says, yeah, that's what came up, ham, cheese, and skunk hair. I'm going like, are you nuts? He went, mm-mm. So I got back to the guy, and I said, where did you get this bag from that you put the stuff in? He said, well, I had my sandwich in there. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Instant contamination. Yeah, that's very important. No matter what you touch or pick up, make sure you're wearing gloves. The kind like doctors wear, nurses wear. They're cheap. You can get them at CVS or any drugstore. They have them by the dozens for nothing. Just put a bunch of those in your pocket. Tweezers. Everybody's got old tweezers at the house they don't use for the last 30 years. Put those in your pocket. Some clean white envelopes. Anything to protect the evidence is what you need to do, because the chain of evidence is very important. I mean, if one of your people finds something and you're not on the trip with them, but they want to show it to you, so they're going to send it to you, it's a chain of evidence. So it goes from them to you, but there's got to be some kind of recording. So what they need to do is right across the crease of the envelope where the envelope seals shut, put their initials, so that if it's tampered with by the time you get it, you know somebody was into it. In the same case, you're going to send it back, you're going to put a piece of tape over that part that you opened up, and then you're going to put your initials on it. And then when it comes to me, I open it up, look at it, I put my initials on it, I take it to the lab. They give me a receipt with their initials on it, and I get it back with a seal just the way I gave it to them. So protection of the evidence is very, very important. And, we keep Petri dishes in the truck. We keep vials, test tubes in the truck. So when we do find something, we can put it down and seal it. I use evidence tape, tamper-proof tape. So whatever I get is protected from the minute it's picked up till the minute it gets to the lab and back to me. Very cheap stuff. Petri dishes, you can get a dozen of those for probably $5. Test tubes, you can get 6 of those for, I think, $3.49 or something like that. And they're just little things that you can carry. I mean, a Petri dish and a test tube don't weigh anything. So if you come across some strange liquid, pipette, which is a plastic throwaway eyedropper, you can get those by the hundreds for $5 on eBay. And, just so you're not touching anything, the pipette is sterile, the Petri dish is sterile, test tubes are sterile, so all your evidence is going to be sterile when you put it in there, and that's how it's going to get to the lab. And it makes the lab a whole lot easier when they can just zero in on hair follicles or scat or some blood or urine, saliva. I mean, after people walk around the woods a little bit, they see stuff that is normally not there. It's out of the ordinary. Now, some of it's very common, like bear crap or animals that are in season. So, but you don't know until you pick it up and put it away. And again, just never touch anything barehanded. Always have on gloves, and that'll protect your evidence. That gives you a clean shot at getting a good result.
Let's get to some questions here. Claudia wants to know, Butch, do you believe that ghosts are visiting from the other side then?
Well, I've only ever had 2 experiences. I'm not a ghost hunter, but I was invited by some friends of mine who have a very large ghost hunting group. They've been in existence. They've been actually in an incorporated business since 1975. It's a family affair. They don't charge anybody anything, and I was just nosy and wanted to see how they did it, so I went along. And I believe I told this story on the show before, where I had my first run-in with a haunted doll. And the second was we were at a Indian burial site, and these paranormal folks, what they do with a mini mag light, what they are, flashlight, little mini magnet, and they loosen it up so it doesn't stay on. They put it down. They asked it to turn it on and off when they asked questions. And it was the first time I saw that done. And I said, wait a minute. I said, anything could be doing that. The vibration of your voice could be setting that off. And I said, let's use my flashlight. So I pulled out my Streamlight. Now, my Streamlight is an LED, but you've got to push it one time to arm it, push it the second time to put it on high beam, push it the third time to shut it off. So there's no loosening of anything. Okay? So they took my light and they put it down and they started asking whatever their question was, like, who are you? Did you die here? Or whatever they ask. And my light went on and I was standing right aside of it and I didn't hear anything push that button. And when they were all done, I picked up the light and the button was still where I left it. So is it possible that they come back from the other side? I would have to say yes.
Question from Disgrazia. She is asking, Butch, what is your opinion about Stephen Hawking earlier this week saying we shouldn't be contacting extraterrestrials and that we should be wary of them?
I agree with him 100%. I think they're more malevolent than they are benevolent. Everybody that's come in contact with whatever or whoever these beings are has had a bad experience. Of course, the human mutilations, the people are taken against their will and experimented on. It's, a benevolent society would not do that. And, how many people have to be abducted and tested or probed or poked or needled or whatever they do to get the information they need? One guy said to me one time, he said, well, do you think we have something that they need to exist. And when you think about it, that's a very plausible thing to say, because a lot of the areas that are, and I'm not talking about mutes here, I'm just talking about abductees, areas where they have puncture wounds or marks of some type is where serotonin is very dominant in the body. And serotonin is if you break it down, serotonin is a fluid we all have in our bodies, and it covers emotions. It when you're happy, it's high. When you're sad, it's low. Autistic children have too much of it. There's a whole thing with serotonin. But he's a researcher. He's in Puerto Rico. He's been working on this for about 5 or 6 years now. And he gave me all kinds of information to read, and I read it all and going like, this guy may be onto something. So it's really something when you think about it. But at this point, with all the damage that's been done, I would say they're more malevolent than benevolent. I just don't see these guys as being, the guy that you're going to go to a local bar with and have a couple beers.
I think it's 50-50. I think it's the statistic is higher, and I'm still a firm believer on that, Butch, that I think it has to have something. And I mean, it gets into that conspiratorial realm, but I really believe it has something to do with Eisenhower signing that deal in the 50s. Because
I agree, and it could be 50-50, but I don't see anything benevolent coming. And, that deal was, you give us all this, whatever we need, and we'll let you take these people, and when you're done with them, just make sure they're back and they're safe. Well, having a mutilated body laying there that's butchered just like a cow is not returning somebody safe and sound.
I understand that, but I know from my own, and there's nothing scientific about what I do, but from my own little studies here and talking to Canadian people about their experiences, I would say it's closer to 80% benevolent, 20% malevolent.
Well, it could be. I mean, people here seem to not be willing to talk to anybody unless there's a DR in front of their name, because they, I can't hypnotize anybody. I can hit them with a hammer, but I can't hypnotize anybody. And, they ask questions that they should be talking to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, not me. And, sometimes they just go like, well, I guess talking to you will be a waste of time. And I said, well, if you're looking for that kind of help, yeah, I'm not a doctor. But the cases that I've been involved in and researched and studied and investigated have all been in the malevolent stage, not the benevolent stage. So I guess I'm at a standstill with that one, because you could be right. I mean, I could be all wet. I mean, it could be more than that. I mean, but from what I know and what I've gathered and what I've seen, either that little 20% out there are some really bad dudes, or the benevolent guys really don't give much a shit.
Everett wants to know if there's been any updates or any more sightings of Dogman in the Beast of Bray Road.
They have sightings out there all the time. Linda Godfrey and that area, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, there's Dogman reports there pretty much on a daily basis. And it kind of makes you wonder why one person sees these things pretty much, every couple of weeks while he's walking in the woods, and there's 200 people running around those woods. They don't see nothing. The Dogman is totally different than what I'm looking for. The bipedal canine we're hunting is not a Dogman by any stretch. The description is totally different. The reactions are totally different. And the confrontations with people are totally different. With the one thing that they all have in common, what they do encounter the bipedal canine, is the fear of something bad is really going to happen if I just stand here. I got to leave. I got to go now. And it doesn't matter if they're armed or unarmed. It's happened to every one of them. Even the ones that didn't see it, but knew it was there. You know, they saw maybe the head, or they saw the legs, or they saw part of it. They still had the same feeling, and it doesn't run. These dogmen have been chased. They run on all fours. They're smaller, more canine. They have bushy tails, different colors, like a dog would have. Longer snouts. Some have floppy ears. Our guy has none of those, and our guy has never been seen running on all fours, ever.
Linda Godfrey, for our listeners, will be on this show in 2 days' time talking about Dogman and other weird cryptids that she has been investigating, because really she's the queen of the Dogman sighting. She's the one who broke the story back in 1988 when she was a reporter in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what she has to say on that night in regards to the Dogman sightings. Love Linda. Good people.
Yeah, smart lady. Very meticulous in her research, and there's just a difference between what she's investigating out there and what we're investigating here. That's why I got away from using Dogman or Wolfman. I just name it. We just use bipedal canine because that's what it is. It's bipedal and it looks like a canine. Well, it looks like a wolf. I mean, the descriptions are all the same from everybody. Nobody's differentiated any descriptions. 8 to 10 foot tall, massive wolf-like head, arms with hands and claws, massive chest, very thin-waisted, heavy-legged, feet that are legs that are hocked. I mean, they're describing a wolf, but it's always seen on 2 feet, and it's always seen with hands, not paws, where some of the Dogman reports say people see it carrying stuff in its paws. Well, paws and hands are not the same. So, and then you've got the people that want to make it more exciting, and they'll say, no, it was a werewolf. Well, werewolves were usually seen with clothes on because they were humans that turned. So when you're seeing something that doesn't have any clothes on, does that not make it a werewolf, or does it make it a werewolf?
I'd have to contact Hollywood to see what the difference is.
Or, yes, that's a good one. Or is it a skinwalker? There's another one.
Well, I don't know about these damn skinwalkers. They just seem way too far out there, especially since Robert Bigelow has rebought the farm.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it's all posted now, and you go near it, and you're going to go to jail. You're going to get arrested. It's going to lock you up. But I can't discount the skinwalker theory because, you know, they're just the indigenous description of a skinwalker from the Cherokee is pretty much what I'm looking for. And every place that we've had a report from on these bipedals are all Indian burial ground areas. And I told this to you before, until 1754, there were no white men in Pennsylvania. This was all Indian territory. From here to the East Coast, to the New York line, or to the Canadian line and over, and down into the Carolinas, into Florida. This was Indian territory, and then all throughout the West and Midwest and South. So, and these things were described before and after. I mean, you know, the most definitive book out there is the Book of Werewolves, and that was published in 1865. If folks could get a copy of it, I mean, it took me like 3 months to find the copy, but I did get one, and I got the hardbound, the original copy. The newer copy that's out there is actually a reprint. You know, it's reprinted in like 2002 or something like that, but about 100 pages of the book is missing. excuse me, about 100 pages. The original book is missing from the new issue. If they find one that has 200, I think it's 256 pages. Wait a minute here, 265 pages. They got the real book with everything in it. But he traces werewolves and the kind of creatures we're looking for back to Roman times and before. And the churches were involved, and it was. I can't imagine doing this book or writing this book and reading all those stories over time of how these things came about and what they were used for, both politically and religiously. And some researchers say that, these stories came over here when the Europeans started to migrate into, the United States. But that does not explain why I found a newspaper article from 1865 in a Erie, Pennsylvania newspaper describing the exact same creature I'm looking for.
Got a question from Claudia. Claudia is asking, how many strange encounters, a percentage maybe, of sightings, Butch, do you think are coming from cloning?
Well, right now that's a big discussion. Funny she mentions that. We were just discussing that the other day. We have some in Pennsylvania, and I'm sure there are in other states, but we have some weird places here in Pennsylvania that shouldn't be where they are. We have like a nuclear plant that's in the middle of a state game land. Now, it's been shut down since the late 90s, early 2000s, but it's still all posted up like, no trespassing, don't do this, don't do that. And there are strange creatures and military personnel seen in those areas, and there shouldn't be any military in those areas. It's in the middle of one of the largest game lands in this state, 6,900 acres, and it sits smack dab in the middle. And it's posted, stay out, no entry, government property, blah, blah, blah. Fences, gates, the whole 9 yards. And there were some reports, I'm going to say back in the 80s, of a place in Maryland where there was a building that was bought by the local prison system, and it was turned into a laundry to do laundry for the local county prisons. But the security at this place was unbelievable. And, very high fences, concertina wire, armed guards for a laundry. And there were sightings of unknown creatures outside that building that when one report was made before the guy got back to his car to make the report, he was surrounded by state police and military personnel with helicopters in the air. So they knew something was out, and they were out to get it. Up at the nuclear plant, Bigfoot outfit group, was out doing its thing one night, and they ran into a gentleman dressed in total military garb, first-class stuff, M4 rifle, the whole 9 yards, night vision, radio, everything, loaded clips, the whole 9 yards, and he just looked at them because he didn't see them coming. They didn't see him coming out on a trail, and he just looked at them and said, evening, just out hunting bear, and turned around and walked back in where he came out. They looked in, they didn't see him.
Every time you mention that story, that just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, and we're going to be going up into that area in probably January, February, barring snow, because we want to go when nobody's really up there, and really look around and see, look, with all the holes in the ground that we have here in Pennsylvania, mines, old buildings, old factories that have been closed down since the 1920s and before that, you can hide anything in this state. I mean, anything. If anybody wanted to disappear, all they got to do is do a little map searching, and then they can go find themselves a nice abandoned homestead in the middle of nowhere that nobody'd ever see them again. So why not? Why wouldn't they? It was the Russians that were trying to, during before World War II, that were actually trying to make super soldiers, crossing or crossbreeding of genes and stuff with very rugged soldiers with guerrillas. The Nazis tried it. I mean, so who says that we're not doing it or didn't do it or aren't doing it now?
It's one of those big question marks that hovers over our heads at all times when it comes to this. Earlier in the show, we were talking about the importance of the eyewitness accounts.
Yes.
And how people are kind of, other researchers are kind of blowing them off.
Mm-hmm.
One of the hot topics that we have had on this show for the last number of weeks, Butch, is the science, quote unquote, that these researchers claim to be doing. Do you think there's any science involved when you're investigating, or should there be any science involved, considering, for the most part, not a lot of these groups actually have scientists on board?
Well, if you take the paranormal and you take Bigfoot phenomenon and ufology and cryptozoology, they're all listed under the same thing, pseudoscience. Real scientists don't look at them because they don't believe there's anything to look at. But are there some folks out there that do have those credentials that are investigating? Yes. There's not a whole lot of them, but there are some. And, they have an open mind, and they're willing to test and look at anything. But as far as real scientists, like, say, the science department at a large college or something like that, they wouldn't waste their time. First of all, there's no money in it for them. And second of all, when you're doing DNA studies on something, you have to have a test subject to get the DNA from to begin with. If you don't have that test subject, you can take DNA all day long. But if you don't have anything to compare it with, you're just having DNA that doesn't mean anything. Like if somebody takes DNA from me and goes into the cemetery and digs up my dad and takes DNA from him, it's going to match. But my dad's in the cemetery. So if somebody takes DNA off a Bigfoot, well, where's the other Bigfoot that they used for the control subject? Science, although some people, some investigators I've heard over the years say they are scientific. Well, okay, what do you mean you're scientific? Well, we do different things. Well, what does that mean? Well, we test things. Well, how do you test things? Well, we got a microscope. Well, I got a microscope in the truck. Oh, well, we got this. Well, I got one of those in the truck. Doesn't mean I'm testing anything. It just means I'm preserving things or looking at things. But do you have a lab? Do you have spectroscopes? Do you have, neutron microscopes? Do you have all that stuff? No, I ain't got that stuff. Well, then you're not a scientist. You're just a guy like me going out and collecting evidence. And you're turning it over to somebody that does have that type of stuff. But mainstream science, they don't touch any of this. They wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. When Melba Ketchum had her alleged DNA samples and hair samples that everybody swore and declared, nobody in this country would even look at it. Not one scientific institute would look at her stuff. Her stuff had to go to Australia. They were the only ones that offered to look at it. Didn't work out, but so that tells you a lot. They don't even want to be bothered.
How much is that a disservice to the entire genre that we are investigating, considering mainstream science is supposed to be about theory and proving or disproving that theory, yet these scientists out there, for the most part, are being very close-minded on what the possibility aspects of these cryptid creatures are?
Well, a number of them over time have said that, bring us what you got and we'll look at it. And so many people have been skunked by that, where they actually took stuff and they never, like one guy had hair samples that a local college looked at and said, we don't know what this is. And then he sent it to a well-known Bigfoot researcher, and he never saw those again. The guy said he lost them. So did this guy have something? And the guy he sent them to said, whoa, wait a minute. And he makes a call, and they come and pick it up and hand him a check or a bunch of cash, and they walk out the door with the evidence. Could have happened. But the guy had two people that knew what they were looking at, look at it, and they said, we don't know what it is. So he sent it to this quote-unquote Bigfoot genius that had all the credentials, and that was the end of the evidence. How do you lose something like that? I mean, you've been researching this stuff all your life, and somebody gives you a good sample, and you lose it? I don't think so. I ain't buying that one. Sold it, maybe.
Do you think that maybe, just maybe, that under the watchful eye of the government, it's the government that does not want a lot of these creatures brought forward? And one of the theories I have heard about Bigfoot is that the government is afraid, well, I shouldn't say afraid, but they really don't want to bring up the fact that Bigfoot exists, because then they would have to close a bunch of public parks, which they make money on from tourism revenue, and it would just tighten things up. Plus, it's going to send a bunch of gun-toting hillbillies into the wilderness to try to kill this, and, it opens up a whole Pandora's box. Do you buy that?
Yep, all of the above. It could all happen. When Mount St. Helens went up, and that story is available on the internet, they pulled out the body of a badly burned Bigfoot Squatch. And it was taken away in a truck, and there were other people there that helped get it out. And they were all, besides the military people, the couple of civilian people that were there to help with equipment, were sworn, you didn't see nothing, you don't know nothing, and don't make us come back to talk to you. Now, could that have happened? Absolutely. There's people that do stuff in our government that they wouldn't tell you if their life depended on it, because their life does depend on it. And so keeping it covered up and keeping everybody bedazzled and dreaming and running around in the woods and, spending a fortune on equipment is good for the economy, I guess, and good for them, because they don't have to answer to anything. And if one would be found, if somebody made it known that one was found, I'll guarantee you they wouldn't have it very long.
So the evidence that is collected, do you think then, and I realize we're going into a conspiratorial idealism here, do you think that maybe universities or any type of scientific labs, if this information does come in, that they are told to either A, destroy it, or B, maybe send it to some place like the Smithsonian where it just happens to get lost?
Yeah, or it gets lost through the mail, or they threaten to cut off their funding. I mean, there's all kind of things the government can do. And have they done it in the past? Yeah, I'm sure they have. I mean, they have ways of keeping you quiet. I mean, they can go the extreme way of keeping you quiet, but most people have had those kind of encounters pretty much say the same thing. They only have to tell you one time, and they mean business. They're not kidding. If you tell them to go shove it right there, they'd probably put you down right there before they took you to the vet. I'm still
trying to figure out why, though. Like, why the strong arm on a lot of these topics?
Well, first of all, it would make them out to be a bunch of liars, because they've all been questioned over many, many years about what's out there, what's up there, what's running around here, what's this, what's that. And, they have this fear out there, and if they don't want it out there and they're telling you not to put it out there, it's done. It's not going to go any further. And I had my own experience with that, and it wasn't no face-to-face thing, but I was messing around one night looking at an underground base that we have here in Pennsylvania, and just for shits and giggles. I mean, I wasn't looking for anything specific or secret. I was just looking to see what the place looked like, where it was located, and this, that, and the other thing, and whatever I was doing, I must have garnered somebody's attention, and my computer was screwed. I mean, I had no computer. Everything in my computer was gone. Everything. Matter of fact, when I took it to the to the guy to repair it. He said, "What the hell did you do?" And I said, "I didn't do anything." I said, "Just shut off. I couldn't start it up again." He said, "Well, you couldn't start it up again because there's nothing here." I said, "Well, the hard drive." He said, "No, the hardware's here, but there's nothing else here. Everything's clean." He says, "This is like it just came off the assembly line that wasn't even charged up yet." I said, "Well, how can that be?" And I told him, and he said, "Don't do that." So, being the good guy that I am, I tell my researchers what happened. I had to go buy a new computer. Told them about it. Well, don't one of my brilliant guys decide with his brand new Sony laptop that cost him $6,500, he decides he's going to go in and look. And that became a boat anchor in about a week and a half. Totally worthless.
Question.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I don't go there anymore. I just stay away from that stuff.
I have a question from Claudia in the SOR Space Travelers. She is asking, on many occasions, people have set up 2 or 3 cameras where they have a big bag of apples or something hanging for Bigfoot. And on all 3 cameras, a bright light appears at the same time. When the light disappears, the apples are gone. Yes. Butch, what do you think the white light is? This is being seen on many cameras.
It has been seen in many reports also, and not just with food. The one that really strikes me is in it was Ohio. I think it was Ohio, Western Ohio. Family out camping, and they had set up the grill, and they had their hot dogs and hamburgers. Well, the grill went out, and there were still a few hot dogs and hamburgers laying there, and they were over by the campfire now, all sitting around, and there was this brilliant flash of light, and they figured out it was a lightning strike or something, or a sprite, and they one guy got up to go get a hamburger, and they were all gone. Everything was gone. The guy says, "We're not drinking. We don't drink." He said, "I know how many hot dogs and hamburgers I put on there, how many we're eating. I had the rolls, but there was this bright flash of light, and like I said, they thought it was lightning, so they all started looking up at the sky, looking for rain. Well, no rain, no clouds in the sky, and the guy went over to get a hamburger, and there were none there. There was just one not too long ago in Pennsylvania where the guy saw a what he thought was a Bigfoot walking away from him through the woods, kind of off on an angle, and he saw some bright spots of light and then a flash, and until he got his act together within a matter of a couple seconds, he said it was gone. It wasn't there. So, does that bring the interdimensional into it?
I tend to think so. I really tend to think so. I think I'm a firm believer that Bigfoot, if we stick with Bigfoot for a couple of seconds here, I really am a firm believer that Bigfoot allows you to see it. Sure, sometimes he is caught, okay, in a precarious position, but for the most part, I'm a firm believer that Bigfoot allows you to see him. You don't find him. He finds you. He builds up that trust. He builds up that curiosity that he has. And when he feels that feeling that it's okay, then he will let you see them. Because here's my theory on this, Butch, and I'm curious to pass it on to you to see what you think.
Sure.
I know there's a lot of hoaxes out there. Let's throw the hoaxes out the window for a second. But let's say 95% of the pictures that come in of Bigfoot, they're always blurry. Could you agree on that?
Agreed.
Okay. Not everybody is that bad of a photographer.
And all those cameras aren't that bad either.
Exactly. So
you got a guy taking a picture with a Nikon D90. I mean, that's a $6,000 camera. I got one. They don't take blurry pictures. Period. I don't care if you got it on a tripod or you're holding it in your hand. No, it's got an automatic lens. It focuses by itself. You don't have to do anything but point and push the trigger. So if I had a shot at a Bigfoot and I got the picture and I, with or without a tripod or a walking stick or tree to steady myself on or whatever, I'd still get a good picture. There are no good pictures of Bigfoot.
So does this lend to the theory that Bigfoot is a little bit more than just a creature? Because I can't figure out for for the best of me here why all these photographs, and there's some good ones out there, but they're all blurry. And it just does not make sense to me that everybody who has been able to capture a photograph of Bigfoot has about the equivalent of somebody who has Parkinson's disease in a severe stage while taking a photo.
Well, there are one photo that sticks in my mind right off what I just thought about that is it was taken in northern Washington state. And the picture is taken by a guy with a pretty decent Canon camera on a tripod in the middle of a trail. He was actually photographing a winter scene. And this thing just kind of comes out of the woods and starts walking down the trail, and he caps off one shot, and then it walks off. But the thing is like 20 yards away when he gets the picture. Now, everything in the background of this picture is in clear, perfectly clear focus. He had the camera set at infinity, so it was going to take everything in. The creature? One big blur job. Now, how do you explain that?
Well, I guess a blur job is better than no job.
Yeah, and the camera was checked. It was tested under pretty similar conditions with just a human standing there. And the camera still functioned just the way it did when it came out of the box. And we just keep hearing more about these strange lights that are involved with sightings of Bigfoot. And that's only really come about in the last couple, 3 years. Before that, there was nothing like that. It's just the last couple, 3 years. Now,
on that note, let's hop out for a break here. We'll continue the blurry images of Bigfoot right after this with Butch Witkowski on Spaced Out Radio.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where two members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with UFO Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Spaced Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Strange Days with Butch Witkowski. Before we bring Butch back on, I do want to remind you, if you're an SOR space traveler, Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight. Perplexing. Perplexing is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers. Whereas on this end of the microphone, I'm just happy that Bill has actually given me a password that I could actually pronounce. Tomorrow night on the show, Lorian Fenton will be with us. We're going to talk super soldiers, the death of Max Spears, and what this means to MK Ultra and everything along those lines. We're going to get a little conspiratorial tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like. Spaced Out Radio Show on Instagram. I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's only $5 a month. Go to the website for more details. You can read the SOR Space Wire. You can now fill in a report. Yes, we have live reports being done on the SOR Sightlines report. If you have an experience, fill it out, and we will get somebody to investigate it for you. That's at spacedoutradio.com. You can find us on TuneIn and download all of our podcasts on iTunes. Remember, if you're a listener on Revolution Radio, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, donate today. Butch Witkowski from UFO Cop stops by the final Friday, or Monday, that is, of every month. Man, September has flown by. Butch, it's good to have you back.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be back.
Yes. I just wish I didn't have this damn cold. I'll be honest. I there's nothing more that I hate than being sick. Just cannot stand it, man. Cannot stand it. It just pisses me off. But what do you do?
Go through it, be done with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's start off with a question from Chris here.
Okay.
It says, one day 2 months ago, I was in a car accident and woke up 30 minutes later in the hospital. 3 times, no one was around my car. And no one was around my car or outside. And 1 hour later, I woke up back outside my car. Was I abducted?
Wow. So he was in an accident. He was...
Woke up 30 minutes later in hospital.
And then he wound up back outside of his car.
Yes.
Wow.
By the way, Chris, thank you for participating. This is first time I've seen him in the chat room, so welcome to Spaced Out Radio.
That is strange. And was Chris conscious when he woke up outside the car? I mean, was he still injured? Or was he not injured in the accident?
Once again, the delay on this, we'll have to wait for further information. So, Chris, if you can type in if you were injured or what happened there, or if it was, whatever you think, let me know, because I want to hear it from you. We'll monitor that here momentarily. But that would be amazing, to get in a car accident. I'm curious what caused the car accident. Was it like a single driver, like maybe he saw a deer on the road and swerved to miss a deer and hit a tree, or maybe a guard or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, well, if he woke up in a hospital, he had to be injured. If he was not injured, but he woke up in a hospital, he could have woke up on a craft, which would have probably looked to him like a hospital.
Mm-hmm. I'm very, very interested. Very interested in learning about this. We'll have to wait and see. We'll wait for Chris's words. Have you ever heard of any other types of encounters like that?
Not like that. I mean, encounters with cars are pretty weird because, you have the case in Missouri, I believe it's Columbia, Missouri, where they have very large highways, but alongside of each highway, there's an access road. It'll take you shortcut, so you're not in traffic. You can get off of one of these access roads and go to the local grocery store or something like that, or where you live, and you don't have to put up with the traffic. And they're all over the place. And this lady was driving down the access road, going home by herself. There were 2 tractor trailers behind her that were going to make deliveries in stores in that area. And there was a really bright flash of light. Her car was picked up off the ground, turned sideways, moved over and set down in a field, and then the light disappeared. And both truck drivers saw it. I mean, they stopped when they saw the light. And There was damage to the car, which, by the way, the insurance company did pay for. Even though she told them she was picked up by a UFO, they still paid the damage. And the truck drivers were, hey, we'll take any kind of test you need us to take. We saw what we saw, and that car was picked up and placed in the field. So, was it an attempted abduction? And maybe those two tractor trailers kind of changed everybody's mind that was involved?
A little bit more information here from Chris coming through. He says, I was unconscious and didn't remember anything until about 20 minutes later. My left ear was ringing, and I have dreams of me being on a UFO.
Well, there you go. So maybe what he thought was a hospital was actually one of the examination areas on a craft, which many people describe as hospital-looking. Huh. Now that is interesting.
It is totally interesting,
Plus, he has dreams, of being abducted or being on a UFO. So.
Paul has a question here for you. He's saying, Butch, have you heard of the story, I believe in New York City, where the people in an apartment building say they woke up to a bright light and looked out their windows and saw a woman levitating, floating in the lying position out of her window?
Yes, I've heard that story, yes. Yeah. And she was watched for quite a while. It wasn't like a 5-second thing or anything like that. She was out there for a few minutes like that.
That would freak me out.
That would freak me out.
I've never heard that story, to be honest.
There have been a number of stories over time where people witnessed, like one guy, and I kind of remember it as being out in the Midwest somewhere, maybe Kansas, Iowa, Idaho, somewhere out there, where a guy was sitting at one of these drive-in eatery places. The girl comes out and gives you your meal at your car. And it was very late at night. They were almost closed. The guy placed his order. The girl walked out, screamed, dropped the tray on the ground, and the guy was sitting in the same position he was when he gave her the order. Unfortunately, he was 10 foot above his car.
Eerie.
Yeah.
It's amazing the power some of these experiencers have recalled when it comes to their own abductions or contact.
Yeah, and the amount of stuff that were, the amount of reports like the levitating lady outside the window, or the guy in the car, or the lady in the car that was placed in the field adjacent to the road, that there were witnesses to that.
Chris is saying this experience happened 2 months ago, and all he had was scrapes from the accident. Chris, if you could do me a favor, was it a single vehicle accident or was it a multiple vehicle accident? Kind of describe in the chat room what happened that caused that accident, if you don't mind. I'm just kind of curious on that, so thank you for typing that out. Butch, when it comes to abduction, now we've talked a little bit about ETs, and you tend to believe that a lot of the abductions that are happening, especially stateside, are a lot more malevolent. Are a lot of the experiences the same no matter what type of species it was that has taken them?
Well, most describe a small and a large gray with an overseer that is more reptilian looking. Also, it's almost like a chain of command. The way it's described in most cases is the little guys are doing the work. The overseer, the little guys, is the larger gray. The overseer of the whole operation is the reptilian-looking creature. And in some cases, the blonde-haired Nordics are seen as like they're the boss, they're the man, they're the lady. And but in all cases, the reptilian is maybe just because of the way they look or the way they act, but whatever's transcribed during whatever they're doing is under the control of the reptilian. But once the Nordics arrive, then they're the boss, and the reptilian kind of just shuts up and goes sits in the corner or something.
You know, Chris, one of the things I do want to say is we have a brand new Sightlines report at spacedoutradio.com. If you fill that out, I can get my investigator, Mike, to give you a phone call to take some notes on that and maybe research it a little bit. So if you want to fill that out, that's exactly what the type of story we've filled out for the Sightlines report. So everything is at spacedoutradio.com. If you go on the home page, it should be right there for you to click on. So you might want to give that a try, and we can possibly get you some help there in trying to figure out what happened. Butch, UFO sightings, you say, are up. You mentioned that the square, flat, almost like tin-like ship has been seen. Do you think that maybe we're moving away from the black triangles, or people are still seeing them?
No, they're still being seen. The top three are still the orb, the black triangle, and the what some people call the disappearing, reappearing fleet of orbs. So you may see one or two, and then you'll see 12, and then you'll see 2, then you see 15, then there'll be like a larger one that they'll go into or come out of. Those are still pretty well out there. But I would say the number one that is seen is the orbs as number 1, triangles as number 2, and the other ones fall underneath that.
I'm just curious in regards to it, because I know up here a lot of people are having sightings. It's not so much the ship shapes, but they're seeing like what looks like a satellite that is flying around, but it happens to be flying in non-satellite trajectories. You know, because satellites just don't stop, turn, or make U-turns or 90-degree turns or whatever kind of turn you want.
Right. Yeah, they don't. No. Huh.
Are abductions up?
Yes. Yep, up by 10%. And they were up by 10% last year. And they were up by 10% the year before that. And I found it quite accidentally going through some research. And I thought, well, how many did I have from last year, this year? And I come up, and then I thought, well, you know, I'm going to call Dr. David Jacobs and see what because he gets a lot more of those than I do. So I called him, and I asked him, and he said he'd look into it. And a couple days later, he got me back via email and said, you're right. I just looked at my 200 and some reports that I received last year and the year before that. And he says, yeah, up 10%.
Is it up 10%, or is it that people are starting to feel more comfortable with recording their events?
I would say if it was recording their events, they'd be events that were in the past a bit, you know, like maybe childhood or when they were teenagers or young adults. These were all current, you know. Nothing in the past, all current. And another thing that was up in abductions was multi-abductions, like a family. Like the daughter tells the father that she had this experience, and the mother chimes in, well, I had the same experience, and the brother chimes in, well, I had that experience too. And they all start describing the same thing that happened to them, and then they make a multi-witness report. And in the past, there have been many, many families that were abducted, at different times. Some not long after birth, but didn't remember anything until they were in their 30s or 40s. Grandmothers that, were being abducted, when they didn't even live in this country, but, they finally told somebody in the family, and the family says, well, that's strange because so-and-so had the same thing happen to them. So do they follow families around? Yeah, quite possibly. Do they keep track of people? Yeah, because there's people that have multiple abductions. As a matter of fact, they know when they're going to be abducted, They have a precognition or some type of communication that says, well, we'll be there tonight, and whatever. And it's just very, very. Abductions are all over the place. I mean, when I say that, I don't mean all over, like in locations, but it's just like you'll have like a family reporting abductions over many, many, many years, and it might not be the whole family. It might just be a brother and sister, or a father and a sister, or a daughter, or a son and a grandson and a grandfather. I mean, it doesn't have to be the whole family, but there's always a number of people in that same family that are related to each other somehow, and it's usually someone that's younger and someone that's older. So it'd be like a grandfather and maybe the grandson, or a young adult and his mother, and nobody else. So are they doing some kind of study, or watching the growth or development of an individual? Don't know.
I find it funny that, well, it's not really a funny part. I'm saying that as just a statement du jour, I guess, that many people are starting to believe in the research field that it has something to do with the family lineage, that that a lot of these people being taken have family members who've been taken, grandparents, great-grandparents, and they continue to follow some sort of lineage trail just to see. And I find that very interesting that it would be that hereditary, that they would go down the family line like that.
Sure, and you could follow lineages that go back to ancient times. I mean, there was just a study on that was just completed on Genghis Khan, the Mongol, and they figure that pretty much every 240 people on this planet are in some way or shape or form related to Genghis Khan, because he had so many children, and they had so many children, and it just kept going on and on and on. So the study came up with that approximately 240 individuals, or every 240 individuals, dating back to his time, have populated this earth, and we have some kind of connection to Genghis Khan. And it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're from Europe or Italy or, all the places he captured. I mean, the guy almost had the whole world in his pocket. And that was kind of amazing. But he had 100 and some kids, and they all grew up and got married, and they had many kids, and it just on and on from there. So would it make sense if I was checking on a lineage and I could had that power to watch them over centuries? Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
I still think that a lot of people are feeling more comfortable with coming out. And that can only be a good thing. The more people that come out, the better. But I find it quite ironic that more people are coming out saying their experiences now. In the meantime, like we mentioned earlier in the show, a lot of the big name researchers are no longer requiring that personal experience.
Well, the thing that always amazed me about abductions was that folks that have had that experience could be in their 70s and 80s before they recall anything that happened. And then there's people that can recall pretty much right to the penny of something that happened to them when they were 3 or 4 or 5 years old. And they're describing things that happened to them that was so long ago, it's just hard to believe that they can remember that. And the abduction scenario is absolutely mind-boggling in my estimation, because there's so much to it, and yet there's so much not to it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of information, but there's no information. Doctors pass it off as sleep deprivation, psychic episodes, but I just don't see that many people over all these years that are, have some kind of psychosis or sleep deprivation or some kind of physical ailment. I mean, there's these reports. There's hundreds of thousands of reports from all over the world, not just here. I mean, everywhere. And then, okay, take Alaska, for instance. The most abductions reported, and missing persons also, are in Alaska. And that's just not white folks. It's indigenous, too. They're gone. They disappear. Then next time, you're walking down the street and there goes old buddy. I thought you were gone. Oh, I'm here. And he don't remember anything. They don't know where in the hell he was. So the abduction scenario takes on so many different facets that I can see how Dr. Jacobs, fills up all his time just looking at one part of it. I know what it's like just doing a couple of them and doing the rest of the stuff that we do, how much time it takes. And I just couldn't imagine myself sitting there and looking at abductions all day, all day, all week. It'd probably make you half wacky. Before you know it, you'd be thinking you were abducted.
I was.
No, I don't mean you. I was talking about me.
Oh, I tell you, if I get abducted again, I'm coming over to you. I got to stop in North Carolina and pick up Eric first. But then we're going to come up to you and we're going to come say hello.
Cool beans. I'm for it. I'll buy. Drinks on me.
I hope so. What do you bring to an alien for a housewarming gift or a shipwarming gift? Do they like a case of Budweiser, or are they more demure and into cognac or something like that?
Probably the cognac.
Yeah, the jerks. I remember one time I was at a bar in Las Vegas, and I was reading the drink menu, and we were in this private bar in behind a nightclub, and I go up to the bartender and I said, "Can you explain something to me?" And he goes, "Sure." I said, "What the Sam hell does a $19,000 bottle of cognac look like?" He goes, "Frankly, I don't know. I've never seen one. But see that one behind the bar?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "In the dim lights?" "Yeah." He goes, "That's $25,000 or $450 a shot."
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, not going there. I was tempted. I was tempted to take a shot, but I decided not to.
Not on my best day. Not with a pocket full of cash would I do that. I'm kind of a gin and tonic man and a scotch guy. Cognac's all right, but not for $450.
Well,
and in Las Vegas yet? Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? It's one of those things. I think I was there for my pre-divorce party, so it was pretty much anything goes. But I decided to hold off and ease my wallet a little bit. I didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do that at all. We got 33 minutes left, my friend. I want to get into some cryptids with you. Earlier on, we were talking a little bit about Bigfoot and the sightings that people are having, and the fact that a lot of people are starting to take more notice as to what's happening in the field. Could you explain to our audience how someone would know if there was Bigfoot in their area?
Well, besides odd noises, like animal grunts and screams and stuff like that, people report a smell, a musty smell, like you'd walk into a basement that had a lot of mold in it, wet mold, kind of a musty, moldy smell. That's been pretty much prevalent in every case that I've read, where they had this odd smell of, a couple people described it as sulfur, but I don't think they meant to say sulfur. I think they meant to say mold. Like wet hair, like a wet dog, So that would be a point there. Another point would be rocks being thrown at you from nowhere, that you don't know where they're coming from. those three would probably be the most dominant. The noise, like a howling scream. If anybody remembers the movie Predator, a lot of people say it sounded like the Predator when he was yelling and carrying on. That type of primordial scream of an animal. But the smell is dominant, and rocks or sticks being thrown at you, and not to hit you, but like over top of you or in front of you or behind you. And I don't know anybody that's ever been hit by one. I've never seen a report where somebody was hit with a rock or a stick, but they've had sticks thrown at them or rocks thrown around them. And that's just, according to the researchers, that's their way of saying, you need to leave. Your time is up. Beat it. Take a hike. But the smell has always...
Go ahead.
No, the smell has always been there.
I was watching a video from a BC researcher on Facebook the other day, and he was mentioning how they were being pelted with rocks all around them, and you could actually hear the rock go cling on the tree right beside him, and then you see the redirection of the rock in the bottom of the video, and you can actually see the rock rolling towards a stop. It was very interesting indeed.
Yeah. And that's very common. Rock throwing and stick throwing, and I don't mean to throw a log at you. Like maybe a 1-inch or 2-inch piece of branch was thrown. Especially if you're in a tent, like acorns. They'll throw acorns at a tent or small rocks at a tent. And then when you come out and look around, well, of course, there's nobody there, nothing. You go back in, they wait a while, and then they start doing it again like they're screwing with you. And who says? Maybe they do have a sense of humor. We don't know.
We were talking when we went into break the last half hour about the photographs that are always blurry, and you were bringing up a point on that. I'd like you to continue that if you don't mind.
On what?
About how photographs are always blurry.
Sorry, yeah. The ones that always intrigue me, not so much the guy holding the camera in the field, but a game cam. Some of these game cams are very sophisticated. Now, we don't have game cams. We use surveillance cameras, but they're basically the same thing. Ours take a photograph every half second, or I can set it up to a minute, or I can record video, and I can record it in black and white color or and the pictures, or infrared. There's no flash, so it's a silent motor, so you don't see anything, hear anything, if you would walk in front of it. And but when a game cam has a picture that's out in the open and it's all fuzzy and blurry, and you're going like, what the hell? My cameras take a picture. It's just as clear as if I had you sitting in my living room and I took your picture. But there's a researcher, and I believe he's outside of Seattle. He's really into these game cams where he has the ones that are actually Wi-Fi controlled. So you can set up 4 or 5 of these things and go back and sit in your truck or your car or on a picnic bench and watch your computer, and you can watch all 5 of them. And when the picture is taken, it'll automatically save it to an SD card. And the guy's taken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of pictures, and maybe 10% of those has something in there that he can't identify, and every one of those is blurry. Yet the same cameras took a picture of a deer or a bear or a bird walking or sitting in a tree or whatever, or landing or taking off, and they're not blurry. That can't be. If one picture is blurry, they're all going to be blurry if it's a camera issue. But these things are strapped to a tree. Well, actually, the bracket is screwed and strapped to a tree, and then the camera locks down into a plate, and then there's a key to lock it in so nobody can steal it. And he's 5 miles away. And like I said, he can see everything clear as a bell, except for about 10% of his pictures, which he can't identify what it is, and then it is blurry or out of focus. And that's crazy. that makes no sense to me. I mean, we use cameras a lot. We have very, very good and very, very expensive cameras. And they do just about anything we ask them to do. And we don't have those kind of pictures, blurry pictures. I mean, we take them, we get them. But I haven't gotten anything of a Bigfoot, so maybe next time if I ever get to shoot that or get a picture of the bipedal canine, maybe my pictures will be blurry too. If it is blurry, if my pictures are blurry off of my cameras, the way they're set and the way they're stationed and positioned, then I know it has to do with something that's not kosher, interdimensional or whatever it is, or they have that ability to just blur that camera out. But
got a question from Eric here. He's saying many researchers claim that Sasquatch can actually hear the trigger signal from game cams. What's your opinion on that, Butch?
Oh, yeah. Animals can hear that. Some of these game cams, when they take a picture, they got a lens that moves from left to right or right to left. It just goes back and forth. And when that moves, there's a motor. And you can hear that motor. Now, it's not loud, but if you're aside of that camera or within 10 foot of it, you can hear the motor when you walk in front of it before it takes the picture. And in some of those cameras, you can actually hear the picture being taken. You hear the click. And then there's cameras like our surveillance cameras. They're totally silent. You can put your ear up against it. You're not going to hear it. But the cheaper game cams, it's just like pushing the button on an old 35 millimeter. Click, click, you got it. And yeah, they can hear that. And I'm not saying that just because of Bigfoot. Deer hear it. When a picture, and there's been many pictures where, the guy's first shot will be a deer coming into a clearing. And as he's walking towards some apples that the guy's got laying out in front of the camera goes off. The deer, you can see the deer turns his head right toward the camera, and then he takes off. So he heard that click. So it has a lot to do with the camera. We use remote shutters on our cameras, so I don't have to walk up and touch that camera. If the camera's positioned on a tripod or wherever I have it, either it's one of our handheld or our videos or something like that, I got the remote control in my pocket. So I could sit in the back of the truck and have a sandwich, and I see something and I can just hit the shutter and have one shot at a time, or I can just hold it down and it'll just keep going.
Do you think Bigfoot has the ability to cloak itself?
I've heard it before. There's not many people say that, but there are a couple researchers that say that they can camouflage themselves. Now, I don't know if they're talking about they'll just walk into an area where they're familiar and they know that they blend in, or they can, have that chameleon effect where they can change the color of their coat. I don't know enough about that, and there's only been a very few of those reports. And then again, is it just somebody that's just trying to say, well, I got one, but I don't have one,
Sorry, I'm trying to block my coughing that's going on behind the microphone sound, so I don't want it to go on the air. It sounds kind of gross when that happens, but when it comes to the Bigfoot, then, do you think then that we are dealing with a natural earthbound creature?
The Bigfoot community is kind of split three ways. You got a third of them that say it's a flesh and blood creature, and then you have another third that says they are interdimensional, and then you have another third that says that they are actually not from this planet. They're visitors.
Where would you put yourself on that category?
At this point, probably in the first bunch, flesh and blood.
I'd put myself in the second.
The only reason I'm in the first is because I haven't investigated anything where something was seen and disappeared. Every report I got was it was seen, it walked, its arms moved, and the Patterson Gimlin film, of course, with Patty. She certainly wasn't interdimensional. The third group of the not of this earth alien type or alien explanation, where people say they see them flying UFOs or getting out of a UFO, or they're in the proximity of a UFO landing or whatever. I mean, look, they haven't even proved there's ever been one landing, let alone many landings where all these things are being seen. I mean, and then you have, then there's kind of another group out there that says, well, it's actually a group that migrates. So this small group, which they numbers bandy about 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, walk from East Coast to the West Coast and back and forth and back and forth. And I don't know. I really need to see the proof. I just need to see the proof.
There's a couple of comments here I want to get to, and this one is from Joe, because Joe lives on the California-Nevada border, and he has actually said he has experienced on his property the rock throwing going on. Mm-hmm. You know, while he's been sitting in his garage or working in his garage or working in his yard, he has actually seen the little pebbles come through from his back forest and behind his barns, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. You know, how would you tell someone to react to that? What would be your reaction to that happening if somebody came up to you and said, look, I'm having this happen, what do I do about it?
Well, first of all, I'd tell them to get out of the road. Don't stand around and wait for the next rock. You know, you could have a cross-eyed one that, you know, nails you with a rock right smack in the forehead. But what I'm really talking about would be just, you know, get out of Dodge. If somebody that has no experience, they have nothing to defend themselves with if they had to, just walk away as fast as you can, get out of there. And then when you think about, you know, David Paulides' work, I mean, you have to put his work into this equation, because the way his missing people are coming, could it be something like that taking these people? You know, a creature that big could clamp its hand over your mouth and pick you up and just walk off, and you'd never know it. Nobody would ever know it. So even with UFOs, I tell people, if you see something that's coming close, it's getting down, you know, close to you, get out of there. Run like hell. Don't stand around and look at it like, you know, they're going to come out and shake your hand. Just get out of there. And I guess that's where I stand on that. I wouldn't want anybody with no experience to be, you know, putting themselves in a position where they could get hurt.
Paul, who is new to the chat room, first time listening in as we're live. He's caught a few shows on our YouTube channel. Thank you, Paul, for giving us the opportunity. I appreciate that. He is asking, Butch, perhaps no Bigfoot remains are found because they are intelligent enough to bury their dead. What is your thoughts on that?
There are two thoughts on that. One, they bury their dead. Two, they're cannibalistic and they eat their dead.
What about three? That they put them in a different dimension?
Well, that could be, but I mean, in the Bigfoot the Bigfoot researchers' world, it is they had those two things because that question has been asked many, many times. So they either bury their dead. Look at how many years before they found elephant graveyards. You know, they still haven't found any graveyards for a silverback gorilla. They found live ones, but they never found any dead ones. And the other thought that came out was they could be cannibalistic and they actually eat their dead. But then what do they do with the bones? Or, like you suggested, could they be interdimensional?
Daryl is asking a question here for you. She's asking, Butch, what do you think about MK Ultra and HARP, and how do you know if you're targeted?
Well, MK Ultra has been around for a long time, and it is still in existence, regardless of what you read or what you hear. And that's been known for a long, long time. HAARP is absolutely a weaponized weather system that was developed. It recently moved. They didn't move it very far, but they moved it. And it was designed to change weather during combat operations. So if you're in combat, and it would behoove you to have a really nice rainstorm come along to hide your people or to get your people out of there, whatever that case may be, this was going to be the system that could do that. Or if you needed a snowfall, or if you needed a high wind or a tornado, or a hurricane, or tidal wave, anything. HAARP was the weapon of choice, and it's still around.
Have you ever met people who have been targeted by MK Ultra?
No. Mm-mm.
Do you think it's still going on?
Oh yeah, there's been over all these years. I mean, every once in a while a report will surface, and the guy was either born way after MK Ultra. There was no way he would know about it, and he's putting out information that only the guys that really looked into MK Ultra would know about, and information that he couldn't have or wouldn't be able to get. He has that information, and there have been quite a few cases like that, and they are the places that they were conducting MK Ultra have moved to different sites. Some people say, well, this all took place up in New York, and this guy says, well, actually, when I was involved with it, it was in Texas, or another guy says it was in Montana. So they, it was just too good to be true. I mean, too good to not do. I mean, MK Ultra was what it is. It's mind-altering.
I'm still not sure about that. That just seems very, very unequivocally, mind-raping of a government.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
But it had a purpose. The purpose was to use against enemies. The Manchurian Candidate, everybody thought was a great movie, and it was a good movie. And everybody thought that, it was just, a movie. But when you really look at MK Ultra and what they were trying to do in different facets of MK Ultra, you're looking at that movie. The assassin that didn't know he was assassin until he received some kind of command, and it just goes. It happens. And I don't put anything past any government. I really don't.
It's just, you don't want to believe, though, that it's that ugly, my friend. You just don't want to believe that the wool is being pulled over your eyes. I mean, what the government does and what they say they are doing is two totally, completely opposite things. But you don't want to be able to believe some of the things that they are doing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we don't want to believe that our people are out there, cutting off fingers and pulling fingernails and electrocuting somebody or whatever to get information. But, if you got common sense, they are. I mean, how they extract the information is they'll use whatever they have to. People think waterboarding was bad. Well, there's probably a lot more and worse that goes on out there than just waterboarding. And when they're done, if they want to just do away from you, do away with you, you're gone. Nobody knows the difference. They didn't know you were even captured to begin with.
Do you think this is happening to a lot of people who are having experiences, that their experiences are so real that they're being taken care of?
Yes. Yeah.
In what regard, Butch?
Well, I'm trying to think of the name of this book. it's an amazing read, and it really takes you into the inner workings of exactly what we're talking about. And I'm looking here on my bookshelf, my 8 bookshelf. I'll tell you what, I will find it and send it to you, and you can put it on the blog. It's very interesting. It's a very big book. It's very thick. But the guy that wrote it was directly involved with a lot of the stuff we're discussing. And he wrote the book. It was never published. He passed away naturally. Wasn't killed. He just passed away. And his family published the book. And it was very hard to get a hold of. Matter of fact, I had to have a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend get me a copy of it out in California, and he sent it in to me. Boy, I wish I could find it right off the bat, but I just have so many books here. You know, I have 1,500 books, and I just didn't know where to start here. But it's an amazing read. That what they've done, what they could do, and what they would do, it just puts goose pimples up and down your arms. I mean, it's like you don't even know what type of person could actually do this stuff. And I don't mean just knocking somebody off. I mean making generations of a whole family disappear. And they've gone to that length many times.
I'd like to get to a couple questions here, if you don't mind, because we only got about 7 minutes left. This is a little bit of a long one from Paul, one of our new listeners who's listening in live, and he's a big fan of yours. He says, he goes, Butch, I have had sleep paralysis a few times in my life. I know there is a scientific explanation for this, but the fact that so many people who suffer this have very similar experiences has held me on the fence about whether or not there is something strange about it. I asked a friend once if he had ever had sleep paralysis, and he went on to explain a classic case of old hag syndrome, and even said that when his roommate came into the room after hearing him scream, his roommate, who was wide awake, saw the old hag as well, briefly before vanishing. Another time, I was in a hotel room with a family member in the next bed and woke up not being able to move. I remained calm, but after about 10 seconds, she started making noises, which made it obvious that she was having a nightmare. She mumbled in her sleep, "Help, I'm being attacked." I found that coincidence unsettling. What are your thoughts on sleep paralysis?
I believe it because it happened to me once. I'm a sound sleeper. I'm one of those guys that when I sleep, it's almost like I died. And I just felt like I was being held down. And I tried to get up, and I couldn't move. And I started to fight. I'm a big boy, 6'1", 260. And when that happened, I was back in my prime, not like I am now, but back in my prime. And for the life of me, I could not fight my way out of it. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. There was a pause. I woke up. My wife woke up, looked at me and said, "What's wrong?" And she said I was just sweating profusely. And she could see that the veins of my arms and biceps and my neck were just bulging. And she said, "What's wrong with you? What happened?" And I told her, I said, "Somebody was holding me down." That's when she thought I was nuts. And I explained what happened, and she said, "Well, I didn't feel you moving around." And I said, "Well, you missed a hell of a fight." And she said she didn't know anything was going on. She was laying right beside of me. But I'll tell you what, I had a fear that I don't know what was going to happen. Somebody was holding me down, and I fought for my life. And when I woke up, I was just, heavy breathing and all tuckered out, like I just took on 5 guys. It only happened once, but that was enough to my sleep paralysis problem. It only occurred one time. I hope it doesn't occur again. I don't think I'd fight my way out of a paper bag right now. But I've talked to people that have had that. And like Paul said, it's asking about the scientific explanation. they just say it's a portion of deep sleep, deep REM sleep. And, scientists always have an explanation. But when you hear, like this one where, he heard, somebody help on being attacked in her sleep, that's not sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is, like he said, it's unsettling. You don't know what's happening to you, although there's something actually physically in your mind happening. And I really felt as though, my hands were being held down, my legs were being held down, and I had to fight my way free. So, sleep paralysis takes many forms. There are people that have sleep paralysis that jumped out of windows. There are people that had sleep paralysis, got in their car and drove to work in the middle of the night and woke up in the parking lot like, what the hell am I doing here? It's Sunday. I mean, sleep paralysis that's a whole nother study. And there's a lot of studies on sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis where guys wake up in the middle of the night and they kill their whole family, or they just kill their spouse, or they kill themselves for no reason whatsoever. And they're fast asleep. And it's different than sleepwalking. Sleepwalking is a totally different thing. Somebody is sleepwalking, you walk up to them and say, what are you doing? And they come wide awake. People that have sleep paralysis, in many instances, it's a very dark place to be because there's always something going on that's not kosher.
We got time for one more question, this one from Claudia tonight. She is asking, with all the investigations you, Butch, have done, what is the message about the paranormal that you would like to pass down to the non-believers to possibly open their minds to the possibilities of UFOs, ETs, Bigfoots that you have found credible?
There are just way, way, way too many reports with too much evidence. Some more than needed, some lacking more evidence, like Bigfoot. Bigfoot's going to take a body. Paranormal, exorcisms, which were very hardly ever talked about, are now pretty much a common thing. And these things are caught on film. There's some very famous cases on exorcisms that were filmed. You have UFOs, things that are seen not only here, but from the space station, from astronomers, that there is no explanation for. They're not ours. You have astronauts that have given testimony where they saw things while they were up there, or while they were on the moon, or while they were in a craft that they can't explain. There's something out there, and I would think that I would be very amiss not to believe that some of these things are what they are, period. And some things, of course, can be hoaxed. I mean, with the onset of computers and Photoshop, you can pretty much do your own thing in 5 minutes, but some of this stuff can't be Photoshopped. And I always tell people, if you're going to investigate this stuff, just keep an open mind. Try to research as much as you can to find out as much as you can about whatever subject you're involved in. And, a lot of people say, well, I don't know where to get information, or I don't know where to get help, or who do I contact, this, that, and the other thing. Try local, see what's you got local in the area. And if not, get on my website and give me an email. I'll get you the information you need, or I'll put you in touch with the right person. But people need to understand that they need to research, and they need to really look at what they're trying to find with an open mind, because anything's possible. We are not the brightest, sharpest knives in the drawer. I mean, there could be beings out there that, well, let's put it this way. For a long time, many researchers said regarding our space brethren, that they are us.
It's a very powerful way to end it, my friend. Butch Witkowski, thank you for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. I'm getting ripped a new one here in a couple of the chat rooms that they're pissed off this show is over.
Well,
sorry. No, we can't do overtime tonight. I am way too sick for this one. I'm battling it here. I'm putting up a fighter's face right now. Absolutely. Butch, we'll see you again on, let's look at the date, Monday, October 24th. I'm booking you a week earlier because on Halloween, I got a live Ouija board show going on that night.
Oh, my.
So you'll actually be on the 4th out of the 5 Mondays in October. So.
Okay.
So we will talk to you then, my friend. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, guys. Night all.
Good night. You hold on, Butch. I'm going to get us out of here nice, safe, and slow. We're going to put this jet right on the ground. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. Much love to all of you. We'll do it again tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Lorian Fenton will be our guest. We're talking super soldiers. We are talking Max Spears, the death of Max Spears, and so much more. We look forward to you being with us. Everything you want to know about the show, find us at spacedoutradio.com. You can listen to the archives on TuneIn, YouTube, or just go to iTunes right after this show, and you'll be able to find it. Have a good one, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night.